Hello everyone, this is part 1 of What If Naruto Was in Rosario Vampire. This story is made by Lord of the Land of Fire, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Naruto sat all alone on the bus except for the driver. He looked out the window at the sunlight and the beautiful countryside. He wouldn't see this again for 3 years. And when those 3 years were up, he would finally go back to the village. 7 years ago, a very nervous and frightened 8-year-old looked around at the huge apartment. There was so much space. And there was no garbage anywhere, and there were no spray-painted signs on any of the walls saying, demon, or, monster. And best of all, the apartment was far away from all those horrible people who hated him. Well, Naruto, what do you think? A friendly voice called from the doorway. Naruto looked up to see the smiling face of his caretaker. It's really great, Iruka-sensei. Are we really going to live here? Iruka smiled and nodded. He didn't hold it against Naruto what had been done to him on that night his parents had SD. To Iruka, he was a fellow orphan who was lonely and didn't deserve the treatment he'd received. That was why he had volunteered for this mission. That's right, Naruto. We'll be living here until you turn 18. What happens then? Then we go back to Konoha. The boy suddenly froze. No, I don't want to. I don't want to go back to where they hate me, to where they want to kill me. Seeing the boy's fear, and knowing how justified it was, Iruka quickly knelt down before him and gently put his hands on his shoulders. It's all right, Naruto. 10 years is a long time. The Hokage thinks that after that much time the people will finally be able to accept you. But why do I have to go back at all? Naruto, Iruka spoke carefully. You understand why you are special and why so many people have difficulty accepting you, right? Naruto slowly nodded. The Hokage had explained everything to him before sending him away. I am the Kyuubi. No, you're not, Iruka said sharply. And don't ever say that again. You are the Kyuubi's container, what is called a Jinchuriki. You hold the Kyuubi within you, but that is not who you are. The jailer is not the same as the prisoner. If that's true, then why does everyone hate me? Naruto demanded. The whole reason we're here is because they almost killed me. He closed his eyes and shivered as he remembered the smell of gasoline and pain like nothing he'd ever felt before. If that's true, why would they do that to me? Iruka put his arms around the boy and hugged him tight. Because when people are frightened, they do terrible things sometimes. But the fault is theirs, not yours. You are not to blame, not for any of it. Do you understand? I guess so, but why do I have to back there? Iruka sighed sadly. Because Naruto, one day you will have great power. For good or for ill, you are the living legacy of the 4th Hokage. Note: Iruka does not know Naruto's parentage. He is referring to the fact that it was the 4th that placed the Kyuubi into Naruto. And the power you wield will be used in service of the village. Naruto looked up angrily, but did not speak the thoughts that were in his head. Iruka and the old man were the only ones in the whole world who had ever been decent to him. He didn't want to say something that would make Iruka hate him. Listen, Naruto, how about we save the unpacking later and go get something to eat? I'll be cooking most of our meals from now on, but tonight we can eat out and do some exploring. Cool, Naruto said excitedly, and much of his bad mood was dispelled. Can we go get some ramen? Iruka nodded with a wide smile. Sure. As they left their new apartment, Naruto remembered something. Oh, Iruka-sensei, what is this place called again? Tokyo, Iruka told him. We are living in the city of Tokyo. You are the student enrolling at Ukai Academy. The bus driver's words snapped Naruto back to the present. Yeah, I am. The bus entered into a long dark tunnel. I should warn you, the driver said. Ukai Academy is a very horrifying place. The driver looked over his shoulder at him. His eyes seemed to be glowing. Naruto took it all in stride and looked back out into the darkness. I've seen scary things before, he answered quietly. He rubbed his nose a bit as he thought he could smell gasoline. The bus dropped him off in front of a scarecrow with a pumpkin head. In the distance, a mile or two away, he saw the outline of a building he assumed had to be the school. He dropped his backpack and just took a moment to look about. All the letter from the Hokage had said was that he would be attending a very special academy for the next 3 years. He would not be allowed to leave the academy until his graduation, at which time he would be returned to Konoha to take his place as a leaf nin and serve the village. In the meantime, he was to follow the school rules and at least pass his classes. Without conscious thought, he reached up and tugged on his high-tie-ite. The one Iruka had given him. 3 years ago. The 12-year-old opened his eyes. Standing over him was a serious and sad-looking Iruka. What's the matter, Iruka-sensei? Naruto, you have to get up. I've just received a special message from the village. Okay. He glanced at the clock next to his bed. It was almost midnight. A still sleepy Naruto followed Iruka into the living room. There Naruto spotted something that really woke him up. Iruka-sensei, why is your luggage packed? Are we going somewhere? Iruka looked at the boy sadly. I'm sorry, Naruto, but I've just been ordered back to the village. What? But what about me? I'm afraid you're to remain here, alone. Naruto stared up at his precious sensei in stunned silence. You're leaving me. I don't want to, Naruto, but I have to follow the Hokage's orders. No, Naruto shouted, terrified at the thought that he was being left all alone. The old man would never do that. Iruka took a deep breath. Naruto, the third Hokage is what? He has actually been gone for about 2 months now. The letter doesn't go into detail, but 2 months ago there was a sneak attack on the village. Konoha beat back the invasion, but at high cost. The third Hokage was among those who SD to protect the village. Naruto stood there in silence for a moment as the words sunk in. The old man is really gone. Iruka nodded. I'm afraid he is, and I'm afraid it took this long for me to hear about it because they only just installed the 5th Hokage. Iruka shook his head. It seems the man they finally got for the job was actually the third choice. They offered the position to both Jiraiya and Tsunade, but they both refused. So instead Hyuga Hiashi was made the 5th Hokage. The new Hokage wants every available ninja to return to the village immediately. That's why I have to leave right now, Naruto. Naruto glomped onto Iruka's waist. Then take me with you. I'd rather go back to that place where they hate me than be all alone again. Iruka put his arms around the boy and tried to comfort him. I'm so sorry, Naruto, I would gladly take you and have you stay with me in the village. But the orders for you are specific, and you have to obey them just as I do. He smiled at him. Don't be afraid, Naruto, I've already taught you what you need to know to defend yourself, and I know you'll be all right. Just as I know we'll see each other again one day. Naruto knew a ninja wasn't supposed to cry, but he couldn't seem to help it. He pressed his head against Iruka's chest and cried. Please don't go. Please, Iruka-sensei. Don't leave me. Naruto felt Iruka's hands gently cup his face to have him look upward. Naruto was surprised to see that Iruka was crying too. I'm so sorry, Naruto, I know how unfair this is, but I will give you something very special before I go. With that, Iruka undid his high-tie-ite. This isn't official, Naruto. Technically you are only a citizen of Konoha and will not become a ninja until you return to the village. But, Iruka tied the high-tie-ite around Naruto's forehead. So far as I am concerned, you are a ninja. Be strong and remember everything I have taught you, and I know we will meet again one day. That was how Iruka had said goodbye and how he had wound up alone again. Since that time no one else from the village had ever come out to check on him. He'd received no further help with his ninja training and no news about Iruka or the village. All he got was a monthly check. Then a few months ago he'd received the formal letter from the Hokage instructing him to attend this place. Look out. Naruto turned just in time to see a beautiful girl staring at him before she plowed into him with her bike. The both went tumbling over in a pile. When they finally stopped, Naruto found himself lying face to face on top of the most beautiful girl he'd ever seen. She had long pink hair and the most amazing green eyes, and she was dressed in the same green school uniform he had. He also slowly realized he could feel her BS pressing up against his chest. Sorry. He quickly sat up and got off of her. I didn't mean to. The girl sat up and gave him a shy and embarrassed smile. No, I am the one who should apologize. I was feeling a little weak because of my anemia. She looked at him a little startled. Oh, you're bleeding. Naruto reached up and touched his cheek. Sure enough, there was a little bit of blood. Oh, It's nothing, don't worry about it. To his surprise, the girl suddenly leaned forward, putting her face only inches from his. Naruto had never managed to get so much as a single date in middle school. Have such a pretty girl so close to him made his heart beat faster and made him suddenly feel very warm. Your scent, as she spoke he could feel her hot breath against his skin. It's so delicious. Suddenly without warning she put her mouth to his tea and he felt a bite. Nanny. It actually wasn't really painful, he was just surprised that a pretty girl would suddenly want to bite him. So despite his surprise he didn't try to pull away. After a moment she released him. He put a hand to his N. There was a slight mark there, a bit like a hickey, but no wound. What had just happened here? The girl meanwhile was blushing and seemed almost euphoric. Oh, thank you so much. Your blood is absolutely delicious. He stared at her. Were all really cute girls this weird? Did you just drink my blood? Now looking a bit embarrassed she nodded. Yes, I apologize for not asking first, it's just that you smelled so delicious I just couldn't resist. She smiled. I'm a vampire, you see. A vampire. Something in his tone worried her. Do you not like vampires? She asked worriedly. Naruto smiled. Weird or not, she was really cute and she was actually talking to him. That depends, are all vampires as cute as you? She immediately went red in the face. Seeing he had embarrassed her he rubbed the back of his head and hoped he had not ruined things. He seemed to have a real gift for saying the wrong things to girls. Sorry, I was just kidding. Of course I haven't anything against vampires. He looked away for a second. They're not the ones I hate. She was a bit surprised at his reply, but relieved that he didn't automatically dislike her. In that case, would you like to be my friend? Sure. Naruto couldn't believe his luck. He hadn't been here more than 5 minutes and he was already friends with this incredibly beautiful, if delusional girl. Honestly, what kind of girl imagines she's a vampire? With a pleased smile the girl introduced herself. I am Akashia Mocha. I am Uzumaki Naruto. Are you a new student like me? Naruto nodded. I sure am. That's wonderful. I was really worried because I was all alone, but now I'll have someone to do things with. He looked at her in surprise. I don't think a pretty girl like you will have to worry about being alone. Naruto instantly regretted his words as the girl suddenly blushed again and looked away. Why did he always say the wrong thing? Anyway, Mocha, I'd be very glad to hang out with you. She shyly looked back over to him and nodded. As the two of them began walking towards the academy, Naruto actually felt some hope for the future. He really should have known better. Even though Naruto spent most of the walk to the academy staring at Mocha's beautiful face, he did manage to notice a few things that were a bit odd. For one thing, even though it was still morning, the sky was overcast that it almost seemed like night. Just on the other side of the tunnel it had been bright without a cloud in the sky. He also noted that the academy seemed to be surrounded by a series of graveyards. Again and again as they walked they would pass a number of tombstones, and far more disturbing, human skulls. He had no idea what the local customs or religious beliefs might be, but he couldn't think of a reason to leave human skulls sitting out unburied. He thought about pointing some of this out but decided not to. Mocha seemed oblivious to what was around him as she eagerly told him about all the things she was hoping to do here in school. It was such a novel experience having a beautiful girl talk to him that he decided not to do anything to ruin it. As they got closer, the appearance of the academy itself began to bother him. The academy was a single large building located on a high cliff. It reminded Naruto of nothing so much as a haunted mansion in some old black and white horror movie. He imagined that some old rich guy must have donated the building and lands to the school. No way would someone actually design a high school to look like this. As he and Mocha approached the main entrance, they joined a stream of other new students, all of them wearing the same uniform and looking about as if a bit lost. Seeing the other students actually put his mind at ease a bit. He'd started wondering if somehow he and Mocha had gotten completely lost and were approaching someone's weird idea of a manor. As he and Mocha were herded towards the auditorium for the entrance ceremony, the two of them got separated. She looked back at him and waved, shouting she would find him afterwards. He waved back weakly as he watched her get swallowed up by the crowd. Well, that's it. I'll probably never even see her again, or if I do she'll have a dozen guys around her. A cute girl like that isn't going to have any trouble making friends. He let out a depressed sigh and found a seat. At least he'd gotten to spend about 20 whole minutes alone with her. It had been nice while it lasted. Following a long and boring speech about adulthood and the need for organization and hard work and blah, 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 Naruto had escaped to try and find his home room. He was relieved to find that the interior of the academy was nothing like the outside of it. Everything looked clean and in good repair, the hallways were wide and well lit. He didn't have too much trouble finding his home room. Inside were the familiar little wooden chairs and desks he'd used back in middle school. On the large blackboard the teacher had scrawled a huge, welcome. All around him the other new students were talking excitedly. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad. He'd been the class clown and prankster back at his old school, he was sure he could wear the same mask here. He just needed to fit in for the next 3 years and pass his courses. Not long after sitting down the homeroom teacher arrived. She was a young blonde woman with glasses and a weird hairstyle. 2 tufts of hair were sticking out almost like a pair of furry ears. She smiled at them and called on them to quiet down. Naruto's very first impression was that she seemed like a typical ditzy blonde, but nice enough. Once the class had quieted down she introduced herself. Hello everyone and welcome to Yukai Academy. I am your homeroom teacher Shizuka Nekonome. I think you all already know this, but this is a school built for the sake of monsters to attend. And with that a boring, welcome to the school, speech became something else. Naruto sat up and actually began paying attention. What did she just say? He glanced around the room to see everyone else take it in stride. Is it me or is everyone in here nuts? Meanwhile his teacher pressed on. Now as you all know the earth has already come under the control of the humans. In order for us monsters to continue to survive, we have no choice but to continue to peacefully coexist with the humans. At this academy, you will be stews, how to coexist with humans. Again Naruto carefully glanced around the room to see the reaction of the other students. Some of them were nodding, most were just listening with varying degrees of attention. None of them were acting as though their teacher had gone insane. They were acting as though what she was saying was not unexpected. So for that reason, she continued. As a school rule you will all live your lives at this academy in human form. Do you understand? It's a matter of being able to disguise yourself well as a human. This is the foundation of coexistence. You are never to allow any of your fellow students to know your true form, understand? Hey teacher, a student across from him called out. Would it not be better for us to eat up those puny humans? And in the case of beautiful girls, better to molest them. Naruto looked at the brawny blonde kid and decided immediately that he didn't like him. Oh, his teacher spoke. Incidentally, here at Yukai Academy, the teachers and students are all monsters, there are no genuine humans here. Since this academy is within a secret sacred world, to those humans who come to know of our existence we will bring them death, or something. Despite the sudden revelation that he was surrounded by monsters and would be killed if the truth about him was found out, Naruto kept a calm demeanor. He was a ninja, and in the years since Iruka had left he'd been constantly wearing one mask or another. It wasn't hard for him to put on a tranquil face while inside he tried to digest everything he'd found out. Living with a teacher for 4 years he'd learned a great many useful things. One of them was basic problem solving. You had to define the problem, identify all possible solutions, and then choose the best one available to you. Excuse me, a girl's voice called from the classroom door. After the entrance ceremony I kind of got lost in the school, sorry I'm late. Nekonome looked over to the girl and smiled. Oh, that's fine, just take a seat. Oh, okay. A cashier Mocha stepped into the room. Immediately the boys, and even some of the girls, were starstruck. Who is she? She's so hot. How cute. I'm so glad she's in my class. Were among the many comments to suddenly be shouted out to her. One of the students, the one who had commented earlier about eating the humans and molesting their woman, didn't bother to say anything. He just eyed her hungrily. Taken aback by all this sudden attention, Mocha stood there a moment and looked over the classroom. Her eyes suddenly spotted a familiar face. Naruto-kun. She shouted happily. We're in the same class. She ran over and gave him a huge hug. It was a bizarre moment for him. In a room full of monsters, trapped in a life and death situation, he was being hugged by the most beautiful girl he'd ever met. and actually feeling pretty happy about it. Being the first day there were no official classes. They'd only been required to attend the entrance ceremony and meet with their homeroom teacher. Once Nekonome sensei dismissed them, they were free to explore the academy grounds. Before any of the other boys in class could even approach her, Mocha grabbed a hold of his arm and swiftly led him out into the hallway. "Let's go explore," she'd said excitedly. Naruto could only smile and nod. Even given the situation, he just couldn't help but enjoy being with this girl. Her joy and eagerness were just contagious, and Naruto actually found himself sharing in them. He also didn't mind the jealous looks all the guys were sending his direction. Having a beautiful woman on his arm was a new experience for him and a fun one. Then as they rounded one of the corners, a tall blonde student with messy hair stepped straight into their path. Naruto recognized him as the one with the carnivorous attitude towards humans. Such a pretty one," he said. "You are called Akashia Mocha, are you not? I am your classmate Komiya Seizu." He then reached out and grabbed Naruto by his jacket and yanked him easily up off his feet. "By the way, why is a beautiful lady like yourself associating with a guy like this?" Naruto was the one to answer. "Maybe she likes surprises." With his right hand he grabbed a hold of Seizu's wrist. Then with perfect balance he swung his body up and around, bringing the back of his right heel straight into the middle of Seizu's face. "Ow!" Seizu shouted, more in surprise than in pain. He let go of Naruto's jacket and stumbled back a couple steps. Naruto landed on his feet and from seemingly nowhere produced a pair of kunai. He was in a fighting stance, ready to continue. "Watch where put your hands or you might lose them." All around him a small crowd gathered, eager to watch a fight. Well, I guess that at least is universal in every school, human or monster. Naruto caught a few snatches of what they were saying, things like, rogue monster, and, forced to attend. He also noted that a few of them were commenting on the speed and grace of his attack and wondering what sort of monster he might be. If they only knew. Seizu reached up to touch his nose. He was surprised to see there was actual blood. Stupid, useless, weak form. He looked angrily at the boy who was standing between him and what he wanted. "Lucky shot, punk. Luck had nothing to do with it. I'm feeling generous, so get out of here while you still can." He shifted his attention to Mocha, who was standing just behind Naruto. "Wouldn't someone like me be far superior to this weakling? Why don't we go off somewhere, just the two of us, and have some fun?" Her response was to grab a hold of Naruto's arm and begin leading him back the way they'd come. "I'm sorry. I'm having fun with Naruto now." Seizu stood there and watched the two of them run away. "Run if you wish, I never let anything I want get away from me. As for you, punk, you'll be paying for the blood you drew. Yes, you'll be paying large." She led him outside on AS run. They finally came to a halt in a little clearing with the usual tombstones and skulls. They were both panting a bit as Mocha looked over to him. "That was surprising, wasn't it? I got a little scared. Are you okay, Naruto?" He nodded. "Yeah, I'm fine." As she looked at him, he noticed her blush a bit. "Thank you," she said softly. "Huh, for what?" "For standing up for me," she said. "That was the first time anyone has ever fought for me." He could feel his own face warming up a bit. Just being with her was enough to make him feel warm inside. But when she said such sweet things to him, he thought he might start to melt. "Mocha, why do you like me?" He hadn't meant to ask it quite so bluntly, but it had sort of burst out. I mean, I'm not exactly the type women go for, and it's pretty obvious you can do a lot better." "Don't say that," Mocha said tensely. "To me there is no one better than you, Naruto-kun." The way her eyes were looking into his was making his heart race as though they were running again. Really? She nodded swiftly. "Of course. And besides, we're on blood-sucking terms." You should be proud of yourself. You have greater blood, Naruto, way better than any of the blood I've had before from blood transfusion packs. So basically you see me as a snack. She blushed and sighed a bit. "Well, actually, that was my first time." You're the first person whose body I have ever fed from. You're my first, and I will never forget that feeling. Naruto stared at her, feeling at once proud and sort of embarrassed. "I always wanted to be a girl's first, but this really wasn't what I had in mind." Anyway, she grabbed a hold of his arm. "Let's go explore the rest of the campus." And that was what they did. They spent the rest of the day exploring their new home for the next 3 years. There were no further incidents. The more time he spent with her, the more he really enjoyed her company. He was slowly discovering just how happy being with Mocha made him. At the end of the day, they wound up at the dorms. "Say Naruto, just what sort of monster are you? Why do you ask?" He answered carefully. This question was a dangerous one for him. "Oh, never mind, it's against the school rules for you to tell me, and I don't want you to get into trouble." "That's right," Naruto said. "We're supposed to stay in human form for the entire time we're here. Speaking of which, you really don't remind me of the vampires I've read about. Looking at you, all I can see is a beautiful girl." She smiled and blushed a bit. "Well, thank you, actually it's because of this." She touched the rosary that rested on her chest. "Were I to take this off, I would revert to my true form, a scary vampire. Rosaries have the effect of sealing off a vampire's power. Since my original form was hated and caused conflict, I put this rosary on myself so I'd keep my vampire's powers sealed." "Wait, are you saying people hated you just because of the power that was inside you?" She nodded. "Even among fellow monsters, we vampires are feared and shunned because we are so powerful." She looked away a bit. "That's why I was worried you might not like me because I was a vampire. That's why you are special to me, because you were willing to be my friend in spite of that. Until I met you, I had always been alone." Naruto just stood there and stared at her. She began feeling a bit self-conscious. "Did I say something wrong? If I do this, I am putting my life completely in her hands. How can I trust someone I've only known one day?" Logically, he knew it made no sense. His whole life had been one long lesson in not trusting others. He had given only one person his complete trust, only to have that single precious person abandon him. He understood it had not been done by choice, but abandonment was still abandonment. Since then, he had not trusted anyone. Even the so-called friends he'd made as the class clown in school had never been shown the truth. In his whole life, there was no one he could trust even a little. And being with Mocha, he had found himself longing for just that. Listening to her now, he was sure that she would understand him. Above all else, he wanted to make her a true friend, someone he could trust and reveal his true self to. "It makes sense to my heart, if not to my head." He grabbed a hold of her hand. "Come with me." He began leading her away from the dorms. Though surprised, she did not try to hold him back. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere private. I want to tell you something." Unnoticed in the deepening shadows, a figure smiled and began to follow them. "Somewhere private, huh? Sounds good to me." Throughout the long day, as they'd run all over the campus, the sun had remained hidden behind a thick canopy of dark clouds. It had never gotten much brighter than dusk. Now night was coming, and it was becoming truly dark. Naruto hardly noticed, he could see in the dark. Along with his rapid healing, vast chakra reserves, and immunity to poisons, it was one of the little gifts given to him by his resident. He took her to a small clearing in the middle of a forest of withered and blackened trees. "What's going on, Naruto? Why did you bring me here?" Mocha asked worriedly. He was looking at her with a strange intensity. He hesitated. Now that he'd gotten her somewhere alone, he wasn't sure exactly what to say. Girls were a complete mystery to him. So, as he normally did in these situations, he said the first thing to pop into his mind. "It's terrible being all alone, isn't it?" "What?" she asked fearfully. Naruto plastered on one of his false smiles. "I know, because I'm alone. In the whole world, there's only one person I really care about. He was forced to leave me when I was 12, and I've been alone ever since. In school, I was always smiling and playing jokes and pulling pranks. I got labeled as the idiot and class clown, but that was all right because it still meant that I was accepted. People talked to me and laughed at my antics, but the whole time I never made a single real friend. I kept everyone at a safe distance because I was afraid to show them the real me. I would be surrounded by people but still be all alone." She was staring at him. He looked away, feeling stupid for having admitted such weakness to her. "You're right," she spoke quietly. "It's terrible to be all alone." She paused for a bit before continuing. "I went to school in the human world before coming here. It was horrible. I felt so isolated and alone. The humans don't believe in monsters. I started to see myself as a freak, as different from everyone else, and to wonder if it would be better if I didn't exist at all. I really came to hate the humans and the whole human world. He looked at her. You hate humans. She nodded vigorously. Yes, I do. I hate them for making me feel like I was some sort of freak just because of who I was. But you understand that, don't you, Naruto? She reached out and took a hold of one of his hands. You understand because you've faced the same thing. I am so happy that I've met you, because now I finally have a friend and I don't feel lonely anymore. She looks so happy, Naruto thought. I want to always make this precious girl happy. But, Mocha, he said. Would you still feel that way if I were one of the humans that you hate? What do you mean? You're not a human. He took a deep breath and plunged into the icy water. I am, he said carefully. I am what they call a ninja. I can control a special power called chakra and use it to perform some amazing feats called jutsus, but I'm still human. No, she let go of his hand and stepped back. You can't be. He saw the look in her eyes. What she thought of him was clear. So I guess you hate me. Naruto, The moment was interrupted by laughter. Now what do we have here? A lover's quarrel. Seizu approached them with a grin going from ear to ear. Instinctively Naruto moved to put himself between Seizu and Mocha. What the hell are you doing here? Seizu's eyes were running up and down Mocha's body. His long tongue swept over his lips. He spared Naruto a momentary glance. I'm taking her right now. If you want to live, get out of here. His eyes looked hungrily back at her. You are far more beautiful than any of those puny humans I molested. I want you, Akashia Mocha. No, she shouted at him. I am very sorry, but whatever you want, I don't want you. He laughed as his body began to shake. I wasn't giving you a choice. I like it best when the girl tries to fight anyway. His school uniform shredded as his body grew and expanded. Oh, I can't stop myself when I feel like this. I just can't stay in human form anymore. As Naruto watched, Seizu grew to 8 feet with a body that was a mass of muscles. What the hell? Naruto, this is his true form. Mocha said desperately. When a monster is in human form, he can access only a fraction of his power. But like this, Seizu will be able to draw on all his strength. Please run, Naruto. I don't want you to be hurt. But Naruto shook his head and quickly tossed away his school jacket to free up his movement. From beneath his shirt he pulled out a pair of kunai. He never went anywhere unarmed, and after years of practice he was expert at concealing weapons. Endless practice had made him scared with weapons and hand-to-hand combat. Unfortunately, he knew only 2 basic jutsus. Iruka had been planning to teach him many more, but his sudden recall had ruined those plans. Over the years he had written home requesting help only to be ignored. He had tried to locate jutsu scrolls on his own, but they seemed impossible to find outside the ninja lands. He used the henge and substitution jutsus when he could, but he was forced to rely mainly on straight physical combat. He wasn't sure how much good it would do him against such a hulking beast. But there was no way he was going to let this slimy animal touch Mocha. Mocha, I need to tell you something. He looked at her with an honest smile. I don't care that you're a vampire or if you don't like me because of what I am. I care about you and I will protect you, because to me you are a precious friend. She looked at him, not believing anyone would really risk themselves for her like this. Naruto. Now please run, Mocha. He launched himself at Seizu. Seizu just laughed and stood his ground. I'm not in my human form now, fool. There's no way such a pathetic attack could hurt me. Let's see. Naruto shouted. Needing to protect Mocha, he was not going to fool around and slammed both kunai into the middle of Seizu's chest. But his thick gray hide was like concrete. Both blades just bounced off without breaking the skin. Seizu laughed. Tickles. He then contemptuously slammed Naruto with the back of his hand and sent him flying through the air and crashing into a tree. What are you thinking, fighting with weapons like some pathetic human? Show me your true form so I can know what kind of weak monster I'm spinning apart. Mocha ran to where Naruto lay crumpled at the base of the tree. He was groaning and spitting out blood. She quickly knelt down and placed his head in her lap. Why? She could feel her tears begin to run down her cheek. Why are you doing this for me? Despite the pain, he still smiled for her. I already told you, you're precious to me, even if you don't like me anymore. I like you, Naruto-kun, she whispered to him as she ran a hand through his blonde spiky hair. When I was all alone, all I ever wanted was a friend, whether he was human or monster never mattered. I like you, Naruto, I truly do. Thank you, Mocha-chan, that means a lot to me. Despite the pain, he was happy. Mocha cared about him. Oh, how sweet. Seizu mocked as he approached the two of them. Say goodbye to your boyfriend before I tear him limb from limb. Then I'll show you a real good time. He didn't think he could even stand, but he wanted to keep her safe. Mocha, please leave me and go. Reaching up, he tried to push her away. And as he did so, his hand caught on Mocha's rosary. With a tiny clink, it popped off its chain. What? The rosary came off. But that means, she was suddenly engulfed in a powerful demonic aura as her body transformed back into its true form. Seizu quickly backed away, sensing and actually seeing the unbelievable power all around Mocha. What is this overpowering sensation? Naruto stared up at her. As he watched, she seemed to grow and mature from a teenager into an adult woman. Her hair became silver and her eyes were stead and red. And out of her mouth he could see a pair of fangs. Impossible as it seemed, Naruto thought she was even more beautiful in this, her true form. Feeling real fear, Seizu continued to move away from her. Just like the legends. Such intense supernatural energy. This is a true vampire. Now fully transformed, she turned to Seizu and teased him. What's wrong, Rogue One? You want me, right? Just try and take me by force. Won't you? She laughed at him mockingly. I won't be mocked by a woman. Howling, he suddenly rushed forward. Mocha, look out! Naruto shouted. As Seizu reached out for her, she seemed to become a blur. A single kick set in his jaw and sent him flying with a spray of dark blood. Attacking me with such weak power, you are beneath my contempt. Know your place. He crashed through not one but several trees before finally coming to a stop, broken and unconscious. A low-class monster like you who has nothing to show for his size doesn't even make a decent opponent. With that, she turned around and began walking back towards Naruto. Naruto managed to at least get back up to his feet, though he had to lean against a tree for support. Mocha. Her eyes were looking into his and he couldn't seem to make himself look away. Are you hurt, Uzumaki Naruto? Shall I take you to the infirmary? She walked right up to him until they were face to face. No, that's all right, I heal very fast. He felt himself shaking just a little. She grinned with her fangs coming out of her lips. What's wrong? Are you scared of this me? With a single finger she reached out and gently ran it over his lips. When she pulled it back, he noticed some of his blood was on it. She held her finger before her mouth and he watched as she licked it clean. Your blood really is delicious. I can see why my sleeping self likes it so much. She reached out again and he felt her hand brush against his. Don't be afraid, I have no intention of harming you. He noticed she now held the rosary, he hadn't even realized he'd been holding it. Until we meet again, you had better babysit the sentimental other Mocha. She placed the rosary back on the end of the chain she wore around her neck. Almost immediately her power faded away and she was transformed into the teenage, outer, Mocha. She was unconscious and Naruto had to catch her before she could fall. Talking to the transformed Mocha had really been like talking to a whole different person. And the way she had referred to herself as, the other Mocha. It seemed likely she had a split personality. Looking at the beautiful girl in his arms, he knew things would not be easy. He could only imagine how being friends with a beautiful vampire with two personalities would complicate his life. But even contemplating that, he still smiled at her. Carefully he swung an arm under her legs and began to carry her bridal style back to the academy. Though she was asleep, he spoke to her. I want to protect you, Mocha-chan, just as you did me. I want to always keep you safe and happy. And I promise I will always try to do just that. He smiled at her peaceful sleeping face. And so you know, I never break a promise. His dorm room was a square 15 feet by 15 feet. Included was a small closet, a sleeping mat, a desk with a single chair, and a small combination fridge out of microwave. The best thing that could be said about the room was that it was a single. Having gotten Mocha to her dorm, he had finally made it back to his. He was dirty, tired, and still feeling bruised and battered. Seeing the sleeping mat, he dropped his backpack and lay down. He was soon asleep. He had the dream again, or rather the nightmare. He could feel the ropes biting into his hands. He could hear them cursing him, their voices so filled with hatred and rage. He could hear his own screams, begging them to stop, asking them what he had done to deserve this, promising to do anything if they would just stop. And overpowering everything else was the smell of gasoline. No, don't. He screamed and sat up. His heart was pounding and he was breathing hard. His body was covered in a cold sweat. Waking up in the pitch black, he needed a moment to figure out where he was. That's right, I'm in my room at Yukai Academy. It was all just a bad dream, I'm safe. It took him a moment to completely settle down. As he did so, he reflected on what a strange thought that was. Here he was surrounded by monsters who would kill him if they learned he was human. Yet he found that less frightening than a dream. Well, he knew there was no chance of going back to sleep tonight. He checked the watch that he hadn't bothered to take off his wrist. Even in complete darkness he could read the numerals that flashed 4:12 a.m. That was great, class didn't begin until 8. Tossing aside his blanket, he stood up and did some quick stretches. His ribs no longer ached, his back had stopped throbbing, and his right shoulder seemed to be okay now. As he'd expected, just a few hours rest had been enough for him to completely recover. Stumbling over to the door, he found the light switch and turned it on. Opening up his backpack, he took out a large grey sweatshirt and some track shorts. Since he had nothing better to do, he would go do some early morning training. He ran 5 laps around the campus and then scouted out a good spot in the woods not too far from the dorm. There he did some basic exercises like jumping jacks, sit-ups, push-ups, and chin-ups using a tree branch for a bar. What he really wanted to do was work on his taijutsu and fighting styles. Unfortunately, he didn't have a sparring partner. I wonder if Mocha would mind sparring with me. He wasn't sure if it was really proper for a guy to ask a girl to spar with him. Then again, she was a badass vampire. He had a sudden image of Mocha standing there in a fighting stance with nothing but shorts and a t-shirt on. His heartbeat immediately picked up at the mental image. Yeah, I definitely need to ask her about it. In any case, that was something for later. He decided to work on chakra control. He picked out the tallest tree and immediately ran straight up its side to the very top. When he got there, he pivoted and ran all the way down to the ground, where he repeated the process. Doing this with an actual tree was a first for him. Previously, he had only ever done this exercise on the walls and ceiling of his apartment with all the windows drawn tight. Aruka had warned him that if anyone even suspected he could use chakra, he would be forced to move again and start all over. So his chakra and jutsu training had always involved the highest degree of secrecy. Here, though, the rules were different. If someone happened to spot him using chakra, it would not be a problem. As a matter of fact, from his point of view, it would be a good thing. After all, it would be proof he was some type of monster, right? No ordinary human could run up and down the side of a tree, right? In fact, that thought gave him a good idea for later. Something that might be a little amusing and help him reslish his reputation as a master clown out of prankster. He was very glad that he and Mocha were now true friends, but he still needed to eslish himself with the rest of the school. He could not have cared less about people respecting or looking up to him, he just needed to fit in for the next 3 years. Having everyone see him as the lovable and unassuming class clown would make that easy. After running up and down the tree 100 times, he came to a stop and checked his watch. The sky seemed to be getting a little bit lighter. It was now 6:15 a.m., that was good. He could now go back to the dorm, take a shower, dress, have a quick breakfast, and then get to class. But he still had time to do one more thing. I don't know why I even bother, he muttered to himself before running through the hand signs. Bushin no Jutsu. There was a large puff of smoke. When it cleared, there were 3 sickly pale-looking clones lying on the ground around him. As he watched, 2 of them puffed out of existence without his doing anything. Damn it, why does it never work? Aruka sensei had actually taught him 3 jutsus before being recalled, the henge, the substitution, and the bushin. He had gotten the first 2 down without too much trouble. Aruka was a great teacher and always patient. But even after years of practice and improving his chakra control, he still couldn't make a single damn bushin. He had failed so many times he'd been convinced he had to be doing the signs wrong somehow. But Aruka had insisted his hand signs were perfect. The problem was he had so much chakra he kept overloading the bushins. He just needed to put in the right amount of chakra and his clones would be perfect. But no matter how hard he worked on chakra control, he could never work a small enough flow. It was sort of like trying to fill a shot glass using a fire hose. It was so frustrating. He seemed to have limitless chakra and he couldn't do anything with it. Enough of this, the last half-made Bushin disappeared. I'm heading back. And as he left he never realized that someone had been watching, someone who was filled with excitement at what had just been witnessed. Hey, watch it. Slow down. The many girls in the dorm hallway shouted as she ran past them. She didn't care. She had made the most amazing discovery this morning by sheer accident. She had gotten up early, too excited and too nervous to go back to sleep. She'd decided to go for a walk to relax and work off some of her energy. As she'd done so she'd spotted something, a person running up and down a tree. Curious, she had decided to sneak in closer and see what was going on. That was when she'd seen it. The blonde-haired boy had moved his hands around and made some images of himself appear. There was no question about it. It was a spell. It was magic. The spell hadn't worked very well, but that wasn't the point. The point was she wasn't the only one of her kind here. She wasn't alone. Bursting into her room she ran over to her desk and the stacks of books piled on top of it. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? She scanned the book titles and moved the many stacks about. There it is. She pulled out the leather-jacketed book she'd been looking for. Its title was, The Supernatural Beings of the Earth. She quickly began looking through the chapters. There were hundreds of them. She knew he couldn't be an ordinary wizard for two reasons. 1. He hadn't used any type of material component to work his spell. All magic users had to have some sort of physical item in order to focus their magic, something like a spellbook or a rod or a wand like the one she used. And secondly, all magic users drew their power from nature and could sense when that power was being used. She had sensed nothing when he worked his spell. That meant he had to be drawing his magic from some other source. All this meant that his magic was a little different from hers, but he was still like her. Found it. She opened the correct page and eagerly began reading the information. And as she read she began to smile. I knew it, she said excitedly. He's a ninja. A hot shower, some clean clothes, and a good breakfast had Naruto feeling fine and ready to face a new day. Hopefully he wouldn't come so close to death today as he had yesterday. The dorms were located about a half-mile from the academy and he was taking a nice leisurely walk. As he did so he let himself carefully consider his current situation. He was trapped for the next 3 years in a place filled with powerful monsters where he could be killed at any moment just for being human. That was the problem. Now as he saw it he really only had two options. He could simply leave. He had checked the school bus schedule. During the first week of class there was a bus leaving every day for the human world. Apparently a lot of the incoming first years decided they didn't like it and quit. All he had to do was write a school withdrawal notice and he could just go. There were two little problems with that though. First off, if he left the academy without permission the Hokage would see that as desertion. Iruka had explained to him a long time ago that even though he was not a ninja he was expected to obey the orders of the Hokage like one. If he left Yukai Academy without the Hokage's permission he would have to spend the rest of his life hiding. The hunter nins would come after him, and they would never stop. Then there was the little fact that if he left he would never see Mocha again. He couldn't even imagine never seeing her again and never hearing her sweet voice. It was crazy that someone he had not even known 2 days ago could have become so important to him. Yet he was ready to face death just to be with her. That left the other option, stay and try to survive the next 3 years. That didn't seem as impossible as it had yesterday. Given his ninja skills it shouldn't be too hard to convince people he was something more than human. And since you were expected to keep your true form a secret during your entire stay no one would be surprised if he didn't tell anyone what sort of monster he was. But after yesterday he was starting to suspect that just day-to-day survival might be a challenge. Was Seizu's behavior the exception or the rule? How many of the other powerful monsters sitting in class had hair triggers and were willing to attack someone to get what they wanted? Just how many serious battles was he going to have to fight over the next 3 years just to survive? I can't depend on Mocha to keep saving me, he said to himself. I have to get stronger. Yeah, get stronger, like I haven't been trying to do that over the last 3 years. How do I get stronger in the ninja arts without a teacher, or at the very least some jutsu scrolls? His thoughts were interrupted by a commotion. Wow, check her out. She is so gorgeous. What a girl. I love you. Please go out with me. Hearing all the boys shouting and pleading, Naruto was not exactly surprised when he caught sight of the cause. Hey Mocha-chan, he gave her a wave. Spotting him, she smiled and immediately rushed over. Naruto-kun, how are you feeling? Are you all right? He smiled and flexed his arms to show her how spry he was feeling. Oh, I'm totally healed up. I feel great. I'm so glad. She leaned in close to him. You know Naruto-kun, I didn't have any breakfast this morning and am feeling so hungry right now. You want to get something to eat? Yes please. She immediately leaned in and bit his en. Hey, I didn't mean me. At the sight of Mocha biting him, all the other boys let out a jealous groan along with more than a few death threats. Naruto actually enjoyed having so many people envy him. The promises of swift and violent death he could have done without. When Mocha finally let go of him, she looked absolutely content. Sorry, it's just because your aroma is so good, I couldn't help myself. Thanks for the treat. He rubbed the bruise where she'd just bitten him. I know you're a vampire, and I don't mind giving you some of my blood. But could you please ask first before you turn me into your own personal buffet? She smiled. Of course Naruto-kun. Your blood really is the yummiest. I think I'm going to get addicted to you. With a laugh she set off. I'll meet you in homeroom, Naruto-kun. As Mocha left, the other boys glared at him but went after her. Naruto decided to take a minute to let them get some distance. The most beautiful girl I've ever met is getting addicted to the taste of my blood. He kept rubbing his en. Is that a good thing? Someone please help. Ha! Naruto looked about. Did someone just call for help? Someone please. It sounded like a girl's voice coming from the woods. Hello, is someone there? He knew it wasn't the smartest thing to do, but he couldn't ignore a call for help. He left the path and headed into the woods. It wasn't hard to find her. She was sitting underneath a tree looking up at him with this vulnerable expression. She was obviously a student. She had on the same little skirt all the girls wore and a yellow sweater. She had blue hair and he couldn't help but notice she had absolutely huge BS. Help me, please, she called to him weakly. Please lend me a hand. I just suddenly started to feel ill. She held a hand out to him. Of course, he carefully helped her up to her feet. Are you all right? Would you like to go to the infirmary? Oh thank you, she said gratefully. I've always had a weak body. As she stood there she seemed to sway a bit. My chest just started hurting all of a sudden. Without warning she seemed to pitch forward and collapse into his arms. Please hold me tight like this. He could feel her huge B pressing against him. What? Wow. This feels great. Her BS are so soft. My chest feels like it's going to burst. It helps if you'll just hold me close for a little bit, please. So, sure. He did as she asked and put his arms around her. As he held her close she seemed to be rubbing herself against him. Whoa, this feels really good. Then for some reason he wondered what Mocha would think if she were present. He felt a sudden flash of guilt. Maybe I really should get you to the infirmary. Oh how thoughtful of you. She looked up at him with eyes that were the most amazing shade of purple. Something about her eyes seemed to hold him in place. I am Kuro no Kurumu. Please be a good friend to me, okay? Wow, her eyes are pretty. What is this strange feeling? I like it whatever it is. She is much prettier than Mocha. The thought of Mocha brought an image of her face into his mind. It also brought a memory. He remembered carrying her in his arms through the darkness. He remembered what it had felt like knowing that he was the one who would see her safely to her room. He suddenly shut his eyes and deliberately pushed her away, hard. Kurumu was caught totally off guard and fell flat on her ass. Ow. She rubbed her bottom and glared up at him. What was that? I'm sorry, I'm very sorry, but I have to go. Some instinct was telling him that if he didn't get away something bad would happen, something he would regret. He turned around and ran. Hey, what about me and my chest? She shouted after him but it was no good, he was already gone. He broke my charm. That's impossible. I am a succubus. I was literally made to seduce and control men. It's what I'm freaking built for. Angrily she got back up on her feet, nothing hurting but her pride. Damn that Mocha, what kind of power does she have over him? It didn't matter, she would still take him away from her and show whole school just who the seest girl in Yukai Academy was. What are you doing? Mocha was smiling at him, clearly amused. What? He answered innocently. I'm just going to first period. Most of the other students were pointing at him and laughing or at least looking amused. But why are you walking on the ceiling though? He grinned. I want everyone to wonder just what sort of monster I am. Oh, I see, she nodded. Very clever, Naruto-kun. He had made it to his homeroom on time to find every seat near Mocha filled with an adoring boy. He hadn't been worried about it, he was just relieved to see Mocha wave a greeting to him as though nothing was out of the ordinary. He then sat down at an open seat. Mocha had immediately gotten up from where she was sitting and moved to the empty seat next to him. It was a nice way to start the first day of regular classes. And now they were both headed to the same first period class. But as they were walking, a little girl with light brown hair and wearing a pointy black hat and a small black cape stepped in front of Mocha. She looked much too young to be even a first-year student. She looked like a grade schooler. She had what looked like a wand clutched in her right hand. Using it like a pointer, she pointed it at Naruto. Specifically at his forehead, at his height. I finally found you, she squeaked excitedly. Naruto hadn't seen her before. Today just seemed his day for meeting weird girls. He released his hold on the ceiling and landed on his feet beside Mocha. I'm sorry, but have we met? I am Uzumaki Naruto and this is my friend Akashia Mocha. Hello, Mocha greeted her. The girl nodded but her focus stayed on Naruto. I am Sendu Yukari, I am a witch and you are a ninja. What? Naruto felt as though he'd been caught in an ambush. Why would you say that? She pulled her book out and excitedly began flipping through pages. I was out for a walk this morning and I saw you using magic. Oh wait, you ninja don't call it that, do you? You call it chakra, right? And instead of spells you use jutsus. Both he and Mocha were looking nervous. The people in the hallway had stopped to watch the scene and they were starting to whisper to one another. Oh crap, this is really bad. He tried to laugh it off. I'm sorry but you must be mistaken. Yukari shook her head vehemently. I'm not mistaken, you are definitely a ninja. And if I needed any more proof, that headband you're wearing cinches it. She showed him a page in her book displaying 20 different designs. She pointed to one that was an exact replica of the symbol on his height. You are wearing the leaf symbol of Konohagakure. You are definitely a ninja from there, aren't you? Well, so much for convincing people I'm some sort of monster. Naruto looked around at the students surrounding him in the hallway and wondered if he was going to have to fight his way out of the academy. One of the nearby students turned to another. What's a ninja? The other student looked at Naruto as though he was something a dog had left on a sidewalk. He's like a witch, he's a half-breed. The first student looked back at him in wonder. Why would a beauty like Mocha waste her time with a half-breed? The mood of the students changed as that word, half-breed, was repeated again and again. But at least the mood wasn't anger, more like a general contempt. And rather than attack, the other students began moving again towards their classes. All right, what just happened here? And why is everyone suddenly calling me a half-breed? Naruto asked. That's what they call people like us, Yukari explained. Humans with supernatural powers. We straddle the border between the human and supernatural worlds. So true monsters look down the noses at us. But if they know I'm human, why didn't they attack me? Or at the very least raise an alarm? Yukari looked at him in confusion. Why would they do that? I thought humans who found out about this place were killed on sight. That's what Nekonome sensei said yesterday. That's only for ordinary humans, and we're not ordinary, are we? Witches and ninja are considered supernatural beings, so we're allowed to attend. I see, Naruto said slowly. But we're not exactly welcome, are we? He looked down at her crossly. Why did you go out of your way to make things harder for me? Do you have something against ninja? Yukari looked up at him in surprise. No, I wasn't trying to make things harder for you. I was just so excited I wanted to let you know that you weren't alone here. I know how lonely being the only human in a school filled with monsters can be. And besides, she suddenly ran up and glomped onto his chest. I love you. What? Naruto said, startled. Hey, Mocha shouted. Out of seemingly nowhere, a blue-haired girl suddenly appeared and yanked Yukari off Naruto. Stop that. He belongs to me. She then immediately took Yukari's place, wrapping herself around Naruto and pressing her oversized chest against his. Mocha was staring at the newcomer and the way she was rubbing herself against him. Naruto-kun, who is this? The girl grinned at Mocha while continuing to shamelessly grind against the boy. I am Kurono Kurumu, your rival. I'm going to prove to all the boys in this school that I am the number beauty here, not you. And I intend to prove it to everyone by stealing away the boy you obviously like best. Despite the pleasant sensation of Kurumu's body pressing against his, Naruto was suddenly feeling very uncomfortable. Sorry, got to get to class. He performed a couple hand signs. There was a puff of smoke and Kurumu suddenly found herself trying to seduce a small log. So far it had been a pretty interesting first day of class. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.